It's a movement that emphasizes service over any kind of proselytizing efforts. Islam is the heart of the Hizmet movement. It is a grassroots movement. It is focusing on interreligious relationships. My name is Paul Parker, Dr. Paul Parker. I am from Elmhurst College. I'm a professor of religious studies. I hold the title of the Baltzer Distinguished Chair of Religious Studies, which is an honorary chair in the tradition of Elmhurst College, where we have a relationship with the American Church. We're an independent liberal arts college. Hizmet schools and education are an example, a specific and particular example of the kind of breadth that I have spoken of previously. Schools represent education not just about spirituality, but about mathematics, about sociology, about anthropology, about world religions, about political science, about biology and chemistry and physics. These schools are the foundation not just of individual children, but of society. What the schools are doing actually is creating a greater sense of equality, a greater reality of equality. It's giving education to kids who don't have it, who did not have it previously. Equality is essential for democracy. What these schools are actually doing is teaching democracy. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, we're teaching students how to value themselves, how to understand their world better, to understand that God made them to walk on level ground with everyone else in the world. This comes in mathematics, it comes in English, literature, it comes in sociology. So a good education, I think, builds the human individual and helps build us toward greater democracies. One of the greatest things we can do for our world as religious persons is find ways to support democracy and equal rights. I think these schools do a great job at that. It's a movement that emphasizes service over any kind of proselytizing efforts. Islam is the heart of the Hizmet movement. It is a grassroots movement. It is focusing on interreligious relationships. The notion of interreligious dialogue, on the one hand, is as old as religious diversity. We have, as long as there's been more than one religion, and that's from the very beginning of time, until this moment, there has been interreligious dialogue. Sometimes it's been with the pointy end of a spear. In modernity, there is a new emphasis on it. And there are criticisms of it. Some of those criticisms are well merited, they're deserved. Sometimes persons enter into interreligious dialogue and they compromise. I don't think that's real interreligious dialogue. I think those kind of compromises reflect poorly on the individual and on the religions those individuals reflect. Sometimes persons lose their faith in interreligious dialogue. So I'm not going to say that interreligious dialogue is always done perfectly. It's not. Sometimes it's done badly. Sometimes interreligious dialogue is misfocused when we just focus on the spirit, as if that's all there is to the humans. But we're far more than spirit. So the criticisms of interreligious dialogue may be right. That's what I want to say. On the other hand, interreligious dialogue doesn't have to water down our beliefs. It can make our beliefs clearer. I, as a Christian, benefit from my Muslim friends, brothers, and sisters. I, as a Christian, understand my Christian faith better because of my Muslim friends who have taught me about Islam. I am clearer in my Christian faith. I think I'm a better Christian. I not only am clearer about my faith, I think my faith is stronger. I can honestly say I love God more because of the teachings of Islam, that I even understand Jesus better from the teachings of Islam. So I think I'm a better Christian and a better person. Now, interfaith and interreligious dialogue can't stop there with the individual. Otherwise, we misrepresent reality, because we're not individuals, we're individuals in society. Which means that interreligious dialogue has to go beyond personal faith and personal religious convictions to the social. I live with a family. My wife is a Christian, my children are Christians. I live in a community. I live where there are churches and mosques and synagogues and gurdwaras. So somehow, our interreligious dialogue has to not only include the religious aspect, but also the social, the economic, and the political. Interreligious dialogue fails if we don't come to the table as equals. We have to come to the table as equals. So Christians, Muslims, Jews, Baha'i have to sit at the table as equals, not just religiously, but politically, economically. One of the areas that we all have to work on is economic inequality. Economic inequality will undermine interreligious dialogue. That sounds strange. But if you put a rich man across the table from a poor man, same religions or different religions, that economic inequality perverts the relationship. It perverts the dialogue. We all have to work for greater economic equality. Political equality the same way. We cannot sit across the table, male, female, 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 male, male, and have different rights. We have to have the same civil rights, the same human rights, so that we can actually sit and talk as equals. I believe when God created us, He created us as equals. And that's how interreligious dialogue happens most effectively. So the criticisms of interreligious dialogue may be accurate because we sit across the table as unequals, economically, socially, politically. We sit across the table from each other weak in our own faith. But if we can sit across the table from each other as equals, friends, brothers, sisters, we stand to benefit so much. I really do believe that God has put us here for the purpose of coming to know each other better. And I think I'm paraphrasing the Quranic text. God has put us here to learn from each other. That is interreligious dialogue. We are only faithful Muslims in interreligious dialogue. We are only faithful Christians in interreligious dialogue. If we don't do interreligious dialogue, I think we're unfaithful persons of God, children of God. Turkey is a very young democracy. When I say a very young democracy, of course it's been since the early 20th century, but only in the last 2 decades has it been free of military coups, last 1.5 decades. It does not have a tradition of peaceful transition of powers until just the last 20 years. This is a wonderful last 20 years, but it's not perfect. So as I look at the way the government in Turkey today has responded to the Hizmet movement specifically, I'm disappointed. Frankly, I'm disappointed. And I'm surprised too. I had not expected it. What I would like to see is a return to greater democracy. We don't want to see a country punishing its political dissidents. We want to see a country giving its political dissidents a platform, because in democracies, when we have disagreements, it makes democracy stronger. But there has to be freedom to disagree without being thrown in jail, without being maligned in the newspaper or on television. When the Hizmet movement or Hocaefendi are mentioned specifically by governmentally influenced press in Turkey, it harms Turkey. Yes, it harms Hocaefendi, but not nearly as much as it harms Turkey. Turkey is hurting itself today when it limits political discussion, when it maligns its political adversaries, when it uses political tools and economic tools to harm social services and educational institutions in Turkey. I don't think this harm will last. I think the harm will pass away. But it's a shame that it's going on now.